What's good? It's Landlord Jack. I just jumped off the porch with dirty glove bastards. You know what it is, man. Keys over the grease. Bow.
Listen, on 3 pointers, ain't no laying up. None of my bodybuilders, we just weighing up. I listen to your ass.
All right, so we got my guy, Landlord Jack, jumping off the porch with us today. Welcome, bro.
What's good? What's good?
I'm feeling good. How about yourself today, too, man?
Really good. If I was doing any better, they'd tell on me.
There you go, man. And I appreciate taking the time to pull up on us while you're in the city, too, man.
For sure.
Yeah. And what else you doing while you're in Atlanta?
We got a big car show going on, Rick Ross Car Show 4, Saturday, June 7th. You know, big car show. Everybody from all across the country.
Oh, yeah.
People from other countries flying in. So all the big dogs in the car game meeting up, seeing who's who, what's what.
What'd you ship up here? What are you bringing to the show?
I'm from Florida, so I got a dunk. I brought my 75 dunk, and then I brought my Rolls Royce. So just a little bit of both worlds, but it's really about the dunk.
For sure, man. And you finished in second place last year, is that right?
I got a second place trophy. I'm not sure exactly how they do the classes. When it comes to that car show, it really don't matter unless you get that key. and what I was going for was networking, and I'm definitely gonna rub shoulders with greats out there, and definitely do a lot of networking, and definitely it's one thing to figure out who's who. But it's a whole nother thing when you can figure out how to utilize each person and how you can utilize yourself with them. So when you're around money, you're going to create opportunity. So I love the car show side of things, and I'm definitely there for the cars, but it's definitely an opportunity to be around great people. So it's more of, for me, it's the networking side that I'm going for, not so much the trophies.
Okay.
But I'm definitely.
But if they give you the key though, man.
Oh yeah, that would be a blessing, but that's a whole nother lane. Them people are going after the key. They shooting for the key. So you know what I mean. They stay in their lane. I stay in my lane, and I'm networking, and it's working.
For sure. No, I got you, man. So man, let's go ahead and dive into your story, man. So born and raised in Tampa, is that right?
Yeah, born and raised in Tampa my whole life. Ain't never moved.
How come? A lot of people, don't
Well,
stay in a city like that.
I moved probably 20 times by the time I was 18. I went to 9 schools. I dropped out right when I hit 9th grade. So I went to 9 schools pretty much in 9 years. So I did a lot of moving, but we didn't move. You know what I mean? We were just moving in place. If that makes any sense.
No, I understood, man. So why'd you drop out in the 9th grade then, man?
It was my focus really wasn't in school. I guess they said I had ADD. I'm all over the place. School just really wasn't my forte. So, I figured out ways to make money when I was younger. And a lot of the things, what school teaches you is how to be a good worker. You know what I mean? And there's nothing wrong with being a good worker. But when you realize you're a leader and not a follower, you need to figure out how to be a leader. So at a young age, I figured out how to be a leader. And there's nothing wrong with being a follower. A lot of people look at it as crazy, but what's a leader without a follower? Nothing. And what's a follower without a leader? Nothing. So you just pick your path, and my path just wasn't school.
Yeah, it's like you need each other.
Yeah, my path wasn't school, but I don't have a diploma, but I make sure the people that work for me do.
Okay.
I'm joking.
He said, fuck that, you don't need it.
Nah.
Was anyone else in your family an entrepreneur, or are you the first one to kind of break free from this?
Pretty much, my father, he was in construction. My father poured concrete. So my dad, nobody was really buying and selling, or nobody was really into real estate. My family, we pretty much rented. Well, we rented my whole life. That's why we always moved. Better opportunities or maybe situations we moved. But at a young age, moving a lot, I realized the most valuable thing is what you stand on. In my book it says it, I got the book Keys Over the Grease, but the most valuable thing is what you stand on. Everybody wakes up and you put your feet down and you go your whole life standing on something that you don't own is crazy to me, and it's no disrespect to anybody who doesn't own something, but when I wake up in the morning and I stand up, nobody could tell me to move. Nobody could tell me this ain't yours. And the biggest thing in the world is the world. So why not own a piece of it? You know, that's what I've always said. That's my quote. So that's really what got me into real estate. Is that, you know, and then moving my whole life, moving a lot. I don't want to move, you know, I want to be in control of that. So that's how that went.
Yeah. So what did you do when you dropped out in the 9th grade? Obviously, you can't get into real estate then. So were you working a regular job, or what was you doing?
No, I did have a job. I I was doing some mechanic work. When I was younger, I was always into cars. You know, we started off with Hondas, and, you know, then I had an S10. I wanted to make it a low rider, and, you know, I'd always turn wrenches and work on cars, you know. One, because, you know, I had a piece of shit car, so I had to work on it. Another, because I'm trying to fix it up, you know. So it just, I started doing that, and then I got a job in mechanics at a shop, and then, you know, I was, had some other things going on, you know. I was in the streets a little, you know, doing my thing, and it was, the mechanic wasn't making that much money, so I just, you know, kind of went over here, and then I just kept, you know, elevating from there, and then I was buying and selling cars, you know, because I started working on cars. So I started flipping cars. I opened up a small car lot. Didn't know what I was doing. Didn't know how to do none of it. I went and rented the lot, talked the guy into let me rent the lot. I went and bought cars off of Craigslist back in the day. You know, open titles, I'm selling them, no dealer's license. Out on Front Street, I'm blowing up balloons and hanging them up. I don't have no dealer's license, no nothing, you know, and some things happened. The guy who I went and didn't go in business with, but I helped him out. He ran off with some money and put me in a situation where I lost the car a lot. And then, you know, I just kept buying and flipping. And then I got into real estate when my daughter was born.
Okay. And how long ago was that you jumped into the real estate game?
I got into real estate about 11 years ago. It's really a crazy story because you know, I told you I was into the cars. Mm-hmm. So I knew a little bit about cars, and we used to buy cars and they'd be junk, and then we would scrap them, you know, if it didn't work out. So I kind of knew what scrap prices were as far as cars. So I had some partners that owned a carnival. So I went to the carnival where they come into town. They come into town every winter, and, you know, they travel the country, and during the winter they come into town. So I showed up to go see them, and they were cleaning the yard up. Well, they own hundreds of semi-trucks. So when they wreck or blow up, they park them. So there was like 20 semi-trucks wrecked and blown up. I went there. They said, we're getting rid of them. You know, I have $500 in my pocket. I was broke. My daughter was born. My business partner got killed like 3 months before my daughter was born. So a lot of things happened all at the same time when my daughter was born. And I was in the worst financial situation I could have been in the most important time of my life as far as being a man and taking care of your kid. So when I went to that lot with the carnival, they had to send my trucks. I said, what are y'all doing with them? They said, we're going to scrap them. I said, yeah, how much? They said, tell me. So I said, I'll give you $1,000 a truck. I knew I could scrap them for $1,500. So I'm going to make $500 a truck. There's 20 trucks. There's $10,000 profit there, 20 times 500. So they said, deal. So I said, damn, I don't got the money, you know. So I said, let me get the money. I'll be back. They said, all right. I shoot over to these exporters that export trucks. I showed them a picture. I said, Poppy, look, they don't speak English, so I'm trying to figure it out. I said, 2,000. He said, 2,000, go, yeah. I said, oh, shit. I said, come on. So I brought him over there. He bought the 20 trucks for $2,000 a piece. I paid him $1,000. I made $20,000 that morning on an accident. So now I got the $20,000. I took that $20,000, flipped a couple cars, bought my first property in Brooksville. Me and my wife, we get the property in Brooksville, $27,000. I really didn't want to do the real estate. That was all the money. This was the first lick I hit since being broke. This is the first, you know, legit money, shit, stuff right. And I'm going to put it in a house to get $800 a month. So it was really like scary in a sense to put up that type of money to make $800 when, you know, in the streets you're going to put up $27,000. You're gonna double up, you know, in a month. So I put it into the house. Old man moves in it, rent it to him for $800 a month. The old man, we go drink coffee. I have a good conversation with him. We start talking. He tells me he rented my house because he owned 2 houses on 3 acres. The 2 houses on 3 acres, he lived in for about 10 years. He wanted to move out, have a place to rent for a year, and he was retiring to Kentucky. But while he rented my house, he wanted to fix these up and sell them. So I go drink coffee, you know, hang out with him. He said, hey, I want to sell you these houses. I said, I'm broke. He said, let's go look at them. I said, all right, let's go look. So we go look, and he says, you know what? He goes, I want to help you out. He goes, I'm willing to owner finance you. So that's in my book too, where it teaches you about owner financing. So now I said, owner finance, I said, what are you thinking? He goes, how much can you put down? I said, probably 5,000, but you got to give me a few weeks. I don't have no money. All the money is spent on this house. He said, all right, let's do that. He goes, what's going interest rate? I said, the banks right now are at, 4%, but owner finance is like 10, man, I was honest with him, I'm gonna shoot it straight. He says to me, let's do 4%, let's do an 8-year loan, 5,000 down. I said, you know what, let's do it. Boom, shook his hand. I end up giving him 5,000 down, but the crazy part is he came to me and said, I'm renting your house. I've only been here 2 months. I'm gonna pay you the other remaining 10 months rent all up front, and then you bring that money and put it down on the house. So he actually gave me the down payment. So now here I got the down payment. We got 2 houses for $43,000. It ended up being $6,000 I put down after we did the math on the months that were left. It was actually less than 10 months, I believe. But $6,000 down, 8-year loan, 4% interest. Mortgage on it was $430 a month. I had 2 houses. I rented them for $1,000 and $1,000. So now all of a sudden I went from being broke to 4 months later having 3 properties. Then once I had 3, I knew an attorney I was dealing with. I told him what I did. He couldn't believe it. He said, there's no way. That's crazy. How did you, what do you mean? You came up on 3 houses in 4 months. You were broke and couldn't pay your traffic violation 3 months ago. What are you talking about? And I told him what I did. He couldn't believe it. He went out there. He seen it. He said he wants to invest. So next thing you know, I told him I need $150,000. I want to buy and flip. He said, no problem. $150,000. I buy my first house with him flipping. Make $36,000 on the flip in 32 days. Sure. I bought it, rehabbed it, had it under contract in 32 days. It wasn't closed, it takes a little while to, another 30 days to close. But within 2 months, I went to him with his $150,000, the $36,000 profit. He made 18, I made 18. And then next thing you know, other investors start coming. Hey, they want a piece of it. It's proven now. And then it's just been a rocket ship since then. And now I'm up to 43 rental properties.
43?
Yeah, we have a trailer park. A couple trailer parks, apartment building. I got a business partner with a big part of my portfolio. I still own all those houses in Brooksville from the old man. I got houses.
You never sold those?
I just sold the first house, the one that I bought for the $27,000. Just sold it, just closed last week. Paid $27,000 for that house. I sold that house last week for $220,000 and held the house for 10 years. Yeah.
How much money did you actually put into the house too?
That house I probably put about $5,000 in it when I bought it. Yeah, and I did that with credit cards, and I slept on the floor. There was no power for the first 4 or 5 days. Then it's an hour from my house. I'm like, I'm just gonna stay out here. I'm gonna work on it, and I really wasn't thinking. First house I did, I'm laying out there on the floor. Well, we're doing plumbing. We didn't have no water for a couple of days, so I'm running up the street, grabbing jugs of water, pouring on, washing off, getting back to work, and put the work in. And I built it up. And eventually, at first, with any type of business, you look for customers. You gotta bring people in. Hey, will you invest? Will you invest? Once you're proven, people come to you. Just like this, the first time y'all built this stage and this platform, you have people you can reach out to. Hey, we want to film you. And eventually, people are gonna say, hey, I want you to film me. So that's what's happened with me, is I created it by all the work I put in to now people want to invest with me. I don't ask to invest with them. Yeah. So.
And how'd you learn the game about, rehabbing the houses and everything?
Really, I've always been kind of hands-on. So
were you fixing them up yourself at first?
Yeah,
okay.
I was fixing them up myself. I was buying it. At first, they were rentals. So when you do rentals, you're going to fix it up a little different. When you do buy and flip, you're gonna fix it up nicer, because a rental property is different than a flip property. So with the rentals, that kind of I was able to get away with certain things. You know, the first time we did tile floors, the grout lines weren't right. First time we was painting, stuff wasn't right. Those were experiments. But those people are coming to me and wanting to rent my house. I'm not selling it to them. They're coming to me. So it's the same thing. It's creating that where people are coming to you, you're not going to them. And that's how the rental game was. They're coming to me, my customers, I'm qualifying them. You know what I mean? So when they come to me, they're begging me pretty much, hey, I'm this person, I'm great, I make this much. You know, they're being nice as they could be because they want to rent the house. So when they come in and they see the tiles a little off, they need a place to live. So I was able to get away with my experience of learning. So when I had the rental houses at first and I'm fixing them up, by the time it came to flipping a property, I'm souped up. My grout lines are straight now, my paint lines are tight. So that's pretty much, you know, just being hands-on. And then once I started buying and flipping, you know, now the craftsmanship has to be a little higher. And then also the timeline, you got to move a little faster. So now I'm subbing things out because now I'm having a few houses going on. So now I'm hiring a floor person, I'm hiring a painter, I'm hiring different trades. And then, you know, I went through the things with the county, learning, hey, you need a permit for this, you need a permit for that. We're going to shut down your project. So I actually ended up going to school and ended up getting my general contractor's license.
Okay.
I'm a state licensed general contractor in Florida.
Yeah. And that's
So-
the only license you have? Like, you don't have a real estate license?
No real estate license, just a contractor's license. Still no diploma, but you know, I'm a general contractor.
Yeah. So how does that make you feel, you know, to not have a diploma and be able to be very successful with this?
It's something you could, and one part you could be like, man, I don't have a diploma, I made it. But I'm also the type of person where if you start something, you're supposed to finish it. You know, if I would have had the same mindset I have today when I was in school, I would have never quit because I'm going to finish what I start. If I tell you I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. So if I sign up for something, I'm going to finish it. You know what I mean? So that's part of keeping your word to yourself, to your family, to everybody. So now when I see my daughter, I can't tell my daughter or my nephews over here, hey, I did it without it. So don't, you know what I mean? That's not something to brag on. So I don't really, you know, I'll talk about it, but it ain't something I praise for sure.
Yeah, because just because it worked for you doesn't mean it's going to work for everyone
sure,
else.
and we
too.
finish what we start, even if it's bad situations. You know, if you tell somebody, hey, I'm going to do this for $500, I'm going to paint your house, and you underbid it, and it ain't for you, and you ain't going to make no money, your word's your word. You're going to finish what you started. That's what I believe in. Yeah. So that was a deal I made when I was a kid. You're going to go to school. You're going to do this. So it's like I should have finished that. You know what I mean? That's how I feel. You know, it ain't something I'm going to go back to and go get my diploma. I don't feel it's, you know, my time's more valuable to go to school for another trade or something than to go get my diploma. But, you know, you finish what you start.
Yeah. And what's the average time per flip, and what's the quickest you ever flipped a house?
Really the average time on an average flip that I would say would be 2 months, 3 months on rehab, you know, and getting it ready. The fastest I ever done is, you know, within a month, you know, 3-4 weeks. It depends on the condition of the house, you know, so that's really what dictates the time on things. The condition of the house, the size of the house. You know, some houses you get to, the flooring's already done. You know what I mean? So it just depends on the house.
Okay. And what's the most you ever made on one flip? Was it the Brooksville house? Or?
Yeah, I would say those Brooksville houses where I held them, and then you know, that house there, like I said, was $27,000, sold it for $220, held it for a year. You know, there's $100,000 plus in rent over those, not a year, held it for 10 years. There's $100,000 plus in them 10 years, plus the $220, that's $320, paid $27,000 for it. So that's, you know, around $300,000 profit.
Great investment right there.
Yeah, and I'm gonna take that money and put it back to work, because either, there's two things, you either work for your money or your money's working for you. You know, when you're young and people tell you, how do you make money? They say you go to work. Your whole life, you go to work. So man, the harder you work, the more, it don't work like that. Ain't the harder you work, the more money you're gonna make. It's the smarter you work, the more money you're gonna make. And until your money's working for you, you're always gonna work for your money. So that money, I can sit here and say, oh, I made $220,000, I sold the house. I'm taking that money, that's a major soldier in my game, and I'm gonna put that money over here, and he's gonna be working over here. Because all I'm gonna do is take that money and maybe turn it into 3 houses. Mm-hmm. So now I'm gonna have 3 houses rented out at $1,200 a month. So now I'm gonna bring $3,600 a month instead of $1,400, $1,500 a month. So I'm just moving the money.
Yep.
You know, I'm creating more soldiers. You want your money working for you.
Yep.
Or you'll forever work for your money.
Real shit. And I like how you share the downside to renting out too, because you showed a video of, you know, you evicted some tenants and they left your shit fucked up.
That's how it goes. It's part of it, you know. And sometimes I post those videos, you know, because I get reactions on them. You know, I'm gonna post them. It gets a lot of action. Everybody's an investor in the comments. You know, you should have done this. You should have checked the air filter every month. You should have done that. But those problems that you see like that, man, I'll go in that house and in 2 days we gonna dump trailers. I got people to work for me. We'll have it cleaned out. That condition of that house only takes a day longer to get ready than a house that's moved out in decent condition. You know, because either way we're gonna paint it. Either way, a lot of times we put new flooring in it. So it's like, it's more of a shock factor. I throw it on my page and just show that side of the game, but I'm built for that. Yeah. You know.
And how long have you been like building up your social media and everything? Because you got a hell of a following. I've
been on social media really for a few years, but it really started climbing and I really started taking interest in it probably about 3 years ago.
Okay.
Probably about 3 years ago, yeah.
And what's your definition of success?
My definition of success isn't money. My definition of success is how people view you, and the biggest thing is how your children view you if you have kids. That's my definition of success, because, you know, I know a lot of people that may not have all the money, but I see how their kid treats them and their relationship with their kid, and your life, that's the biggest thing you create is your kid. And how that works out, that's success. God put us here to recreate, not make millions of dollars. So what happens with your seed is success to me. That's just my outlook on that.
All right, so we got the new book.
Got the new book. Where we at right here?
Talk about the inspiration. What made you go ahead and write this book?
This really was, like you said, the social media. I started getting motion on it. It was really because of the cars, a little bit of the lifestyle. And I had so many people reaching out saying, I want to get into real estate. How can I live how Landlord Jack lives? How can I get involved? What can I do? And I'm only one person. And when you're getting 50 messages of people that want to tell you their story and where they're at and why they're at, I'm typing the same thing over and over. And I don't have enough time to talk to all these people. So I said, I need to create something that I could give them that'll put them in direction. So I created a book, Keys Over Degrees. It's on Amazon. When I dropped it on Amazon, it went to #1 bestseller real estate investing book. It went to #1 new release. It went to #5 on the charts for bestseller. But #1 new release, #5 bestseller on real estate investing. And what it was something that I could tell somebody, hey, go buy this book. The book's $40 on Amazon. Buy the book. Come back to me, because when you read this book, now you're going to be able to talk to me with knowledge. So now you're going to be able to say, hey, Jack, this is what I want to do. So then once I see that you put in some effort, I'm going to put in effort, because a lot of people that I talk to, you could tell them which way to go, but they got to put, their feet on the ground. So it's like, it's a chance for me to talk to thousands of people with just having one book. Mm-hmm. That's really what it is. I just send them the link. I don't have to write all this and hear their story. I send them the link. And this book right here has the whole blueprint of different ways to get into real estate, why to get into real estate, when, how, and pretty much everything that I did. And it's not a real thick book. It's not intimidating to people. I get intimidated by big books. A lot of these real estate investors that you talk to, you see them and they got suits on and they're talking, just superb, and they're really just intimidating in a way, because you feel like, man, I don't really know what I'm talking about. So I wanted something a little more that the masses could reach, and that's why I did it like this. And there's going to be more to come, but this is what it is right here. Yeah.
And do you offer mentorships as well, or?
That's something that I definitely want to do and I want to move forward on, but I'm trying to figure out the best way to do it where it's not just another person on the internet doing mentorships. I don't want nobody to come over here and not win. If you're over here and I'm giving you knowledge, I want you to win, because that's really the end goal of my success, is also seeing other people around you win. So I'm trying to master that and figure out the best way to go about it where I can reach masses and make sure people win and make sure people understand and make sure it's not so intimidating and make sure it ain't gimmicky. You know, there's a lot of gimmicks out here right now. A lot of these people that push real estate content and try to tell you how to get into real estate, a lot of it's bullshit, you know, because I know what I'm listening to, I'm in it. So I just want to make sure I come out correctly. So that's really what I'm waiting on, is I'm just fine tuning all of that. Right now we got the book and then we're pushing forward to that. And we're going to be doing a seminar first.
Okay.
That's going to be coming up soon. I'm, you know, working all that out. And then from the seminar, I'll be doing mentorships, it's looking like.
Yeah, I know it's going to be very time consuming.
For sure. For sure.
Right, so let's switch over to the cars. So like, you know, you mentioned your first car was what, a Honda?
My first car was actually a 1969 Chevy C10 step side.
Oh shit.
Yeah, I was young. My mom's boyfriend had it. It was broke down, a rust bucket, you know, and then I bought it from him for like $300, $400 and go out there and spray paint on it, and, you know what I mean, pour gas in the carburetor, start it till it shuts off. Just, you know what I mean, it wasn't nothing special, but it was something that taught me, you know, I'd work on. So that was that.
Yeah.
You know, I was probably 13 years old.
Shit, really?
I was young, yeah.
And how many cars do you own today?
Today, honestly, I would say probably around 10. You know, I got a lot of work trucks. I got, you know, I got a Porch 911. I got the Rolls Royce. I got the Dunk. I got a Mercedes. I got, what else do I got? Work trucks and stuff like that. You know what I mean? My car collection goes up and down, up and down. I buy a bunch of stuff, then I'll sell stuff, and I'll, you know, I'm still got that hustler mindset. If I buy something, there's a price for it, for sure. There's a price for it.
And are you still hands-on with your cars? Like, you still fixing them? Or
yeah, definitely. I'm hands-on. A lot of the stuff that I'm buying that are just quick flips, you know, tax time cars, I'd call them. You know, I let my nephews get involved, you know, change the alternator on this. But the stuff that I enjoy, you know, the Dunks and the classic cars, I'm more hands-on with them because it's more of an art and I enjoy it and I look at it and I get excited. You know, putting a starter on a Nissan Altima isn't something I, you know, get too excited about.
Yeah. And how long have you had your Dunk now?
That one I've had, the black Dunk I've had, I say probably about 8 years now.
Oh shit.
Yeah, I've had that one for about 8 years.
So why have you held on to that one? What's so special about that?
That was actually the first thing I bought from transitioning into real estate, you know, and that was the first thing I bought the correct way, I guess you would say. And you know, I went from, when I was younger, the most valuable things that I had, you could see. It was the car or jewelry, you know, you could see. That was the most valuable things. I would go buy a car and pull up in that Dunk, not that one, you know, my other ones I had, and pull the pump 5. I'd be like, put 10 on pump 5, and I'm in a Dunk. You know, he looks rich. But that's just what you could see. What you couldn't see was I ain't had no money. What you couldn't see, my credit wasn't right. What you couldn't see, I paid my homeboy for some fake insurance and that paper dealer tag. You know what I mean? So it's like, once I realized what you couldn't see is the most important thing to take care of. It's the things you can't see that make you successful. It's the work you put in that people can't see. It's your credit, what they can't see. It's your money, what they can't see. It's behind closed doors with your family, what they can't see. When you take care of what people can't see, what you can see is going to prosper. So I sat still for a few years. Once my daughter was born and I bought those houses in Brooksville, I sat still and I built my portfolio. I owned 5 houses and I drove a little piece of shit S10 for 5 years while everybody said, damn, Jack fell off. Jack fell off. But really when they thought I was on, putting 10 on pump 5. I just looked like money. But during that transition of them few years, and I'm building them houses up, and I had them 5 houses, and I said, okay, it's time to come out. And I went and bought the black Dunk, and when I pulled out, what you could see wasn't the biggest thing I had. It was what you couldn't see. You couldn't see I had 5 houses. You couldn't see I had an 800 credit score. You couldn't see my bank account was right. But what was inside me is what you can't see. My confidence was up, and now I'm in it. So that's a trophy to me. That's just real sentimental to me. So it's a trophy, you know.
Is there a price on the Chevy then, or? Is that not that one? Not
I think there's a price on that, but there's also a situational price on that. That's something, there would have to be a serious situation for me to sell that. I think a lot of times you watch people, especially in the streets, where they won't sell their Cuban link because they're broke, but if they sold that Cuban link and put it to work, they can get out of that hole they're in. But they don't want to be seen, in the hole. If I get in the hole, that's being sold. Before my daughter goes without, that's going to be sold. Before my daughter goes without, I'm selling the chain. You know what I mean? So is there a price on it? For sure. But what line does that come? That's down at the bottom. You know what I mean? Jack's in the hole when that car's when they say Jack's broke. When the dunk's gone, y'all say Jack's broke. They're gonna say that anyways. It don't matter what you do, they're gonna come up with it. So, but yeah, that's a situational price.
Yeah. And talk about taking it to the car shows. What type of reactions you be getting?
They love it. You know what I mean? They love it. A lot of people like it. My car is black. My car's timeless. My car's classy, so, it goes with both. You get the love, you get the hate with it. That's anything in life, so, but yeah, people love the car. I've remixed it a couple times. I've had it 8 years, so I'm always doing different things to it. But yeah, I got a lot of love from it, and I got a lot of attention. I got a lot of social media traction from it. It brought me to great places. I'm at Rick Ross's house this weekend with it up there in the front yard. Really I met Ross through this car show stuff, and now it put me in a situation where I'm rubbing elbows with all kinds of different people because of the car game, for sure.
Yeah, it just opens up so many doors.
Yeah, definitely.
And what's your thoughts on the Florida car culture right now today?
Man, I think we're holding it down. You know what I mean? Especially in the dunk world. If you mention dunks, you're talking about Florida.
Mm-hmm.
And that gets a lot of people upset from other states. But it is what it is. We're stepping, and the Florida. We're all in competition. We're all gonna have our ways. But when it comes to Florida, man, I don't care what arguments we got over here, bro. If another state got something to say, it's Florida, man. Put dog to the front. So that's how it is. Yeah. And it's put me in situations where, I met different artists. I walk through your hallway and I see different artists on the wall that I've met through car stuff. CeeLo Green did videos with my cars, you know what I mean? And just being on different sets, you meet people, and then through the music industry, you know what I mean? I met Mook Boy, who really got me here today, you know what I mean? Big shout out to my dog Mook Boy, he's also huge in the music and also into the real estate, and also an entrepreneur, and also shaking and moving, so very like-minded. Mook, man, we got that goulash, that's my dog Strand right there, biggest out, for sure.
And you're booked in South Carolina at the end of this month too, man.
Yeah, I'm booked in South Carolina. Actually, that South Carolina show, I was booked last year, and this year they have me a part of it. They said, Jack, we really like how everything's going and how everything did, and we want you to be part of this show, not just host it. So that's actually my show. That's June 28th, Walterboro, South Carolina. That thing's a movie. You know what I mean? You can't even take a picture of it. You got to put a drone up there to see the whole picture. So it's going to be big. June 28th, Walterboro, rep the city car and bike show. Landlord Jack and Dope Girl Nay. That's my business partner on that. Okay.
And how's that make you feel to get booked out of town, out of state like that too, man?
I feel like you get more love out of town and out of state. And I don't think it's, a lot of people say you get more love out of town because your city might hate, but it ain't that. Your city sees you every day. So they're not excited to see you. They see you at the gas station when you ain't got all the jewels and tools on. They see you every day. They see the cars every day. So it's like, oh, there goes Jack. Where out of town, they see you on the internet. So they portray, an image and what it is, and they want to see it, So that's why I think you get more love out of town. And then also people, could be in the same town and, it could be, because they're trying to go the same way, and everybody's finish line is different. That's something that comes with this is with success is a lot of people might look at someone else's success and they say, damn, in 6 months dog made 100,000. It's 6 months and I'm negative 10,000. So what the thing is with success, with money and business, is you can't see the finish line. You don't know the track. You don't know the finish line. And someone else's finish line 6 months, and sometimes that just discouraging. But comparison is the killer to all joy. So you never compare, you just got to stay focused on your finish line. So sometimes people in your city might be watching your finish line and say, damn, he's there, I'm trying to get there. So that might play a part, but I get love in my city, so I get booked out of state though.
Yeah, no, that's real love. And what keeps you motivated?
My daughter, you know what I mean? My family, for sure. My daughter, for sure. A lot of people, they'll use their kid as an excuse for being broke. They'll say, man, I'm broke. I'm broke, this kid. I say, I'm rich, this kid. Because I wake up every day and I look at my daughter, and that's motivation for me to get out and get it. So I use my daughter as motivation to be rich, not an excuse for being broke. And that's my motivation.
Yeah. And what has being a father taught you about life?
Discipline, consistency. I've never had nothing I had to be that consistent with, and when you're not consistent with it, you get punished. And sometimes life throws curveballs, and you might not be able to be there for your kid for whatever reason, so I don't fault nobody. But when you go to that kid, you got some explaining to do why you weren't there, and that's the discipline side of it. Luckily, I haven't had to leave my daughter, but consistency, that's it.
Not
for
really
sure.
Someone watching this right now, down to nothing, man, trying to get into this shit, man. What advice would you share to them?
To get into real estate? A lot of people look at real estate just because they see the money and don't realize it's another job. It's not just money and numbers. It is a job. So you might be good. You might be a great cook. You might be a great videographer. Real estate might not be what you want to get into, but they see it for the money and they say, man, I want to get into real estate. They hear these big numbers. So make sure that's what you want to do. And then after that, study your market. The easiest thing to do is to study your neighborhood, because when you live in a neighborhood, you know what side of the neighborhood's rough. You know what side of the neighborhood has some newer houses. You know that your friend just sold his house. How much did he sell it for? $200,000. So all right, so that's worth $200,000. That's a comp that's stuck in your head. Then you start looking online and you see what houses sold for, and you study your neighborhood. Because when you study your neighborhood, you're going to know what houses are worth. Then when you go to somebody like Landlord Jack and you say, I want to be in real estate, and I say, yeah, well, have you found any deals? And they say, I don't know what a deal is. Well, if you don't know what a deal is, go study it. Then when you find out what a deal is and you come to me and you say, hey, I want to get into real estate. And I say, oh yeah, what do you got? And they say, I got this house, send me the address. How much is it? They send it over. Just like I was talking about Mook. Mook hit me last week, said, hey Jack, man, I got one on the line. I know where this house is at. Boom. Are you interested? This is one, it's a little out of my area where I'm trying to invest right now, but let's work something out, see what we can do. And he already had the numbers. He already had the address. He already had everything together. It wasn't, well, what is it? And a long story. It's boom, 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 boom. I could jump on it. Boom, 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 boom. So that's what I think is studying. It's free to study. Study that and learn what you're talking about. That way when you do present it, somebody buys it. Yeah. That's how I'd say to get into real estate.
Yeah, and the Tampa market's been on fire these past few years, man.
Tampa
What's it been
market's
like
on fire.
There, man?
It's just how the economy's rolled, and a lot of people moving in from out of state, a lot of people coming from New York to Florida. And with the market climbing like this, you get a lot of people in the game that accidentally make money. You know what I mean? Accidentally are great because they caught a wave. It's a house that they bought, let's say for $100,000, that's worth $100,000. And I say, damn, you paid what it was worth. You think so? I thought it was a good deal. I'm like, oh, you paid what it was worth. Then, it takes them a long time to rehab it because they're new to the game. So it takes them 4 or 5 months. Then in 4 or 5 months, the market done climbed. The house is worth $130. They sell it. They look like the genius, but really they just caught the wave. But those same people right now with this market kind of leveling out and correcting, they're the first ones getting scared. Damn, I bought it for $100. I worked on it for 4 months. It's only worth $100. What do I do? I'm starting to see some of that. Yeah, for sure.
What's next, Jack? What else you working on, man?
Right now I'm transitioning from Brooksville. The first houses I bought were a little further away. That's how I got, you know, cheaper price on them. And I'm bringing that money back, doing a lot of networking with different people. I'm a brand ambassador for Bugatti bags. I already told you about the goulash. We're real big on that goulash push. That's the strongest strand out right now. And then, my dog Ross, he always reps for me, man. So, I'm on that Bel Air kick with that,
Yeah, talk about, getting love from Ross too, man. Because, just because you show up at the show doesn't mean you should get love from him, though. But here he is shouting you out. He's commenting on all your posts and everything.
It's just like anything, man. People always say, how do you get involved with people of that caliber? You don't just go to them people and say, hey. That's what most people do. Hey. You create a light over here so bright that they look and say, what's that? Then they come look. And then when they see greatness, they're going to say, all right. And then when you start supporting them, they're going to support you. So that's what I did first. I support, you know what I mean? Just like this bag, I'm going to support that. Goulash, I'm going to support that. Bel Air, I'm going to support that. There ain't no monetary gains from that. That's just support. That's free. Why not? You know what I mean? If I'm going to go up here, there's enough room for my book to be up here. Why not put my dog stuff up there and have it up there? We're going to rep that. It's the same thing. And that's what he does, So he sees that and he says, oh, okay, I got another soldier over here. That's how he sees it. Go fight the war, man. So that's what we're doing. We're fighting the war. We posting, we're repping, and, I'm going to be repping off the porch now. You're going to say, damn, why is dog repping off the porch every day? He's weird, because that's my dog.
Hey, go ahead and plug your social media so everyone knows where to tap in and follow you.
Social media is Landlord Jack. You can look it up pretty much on all handles. Landlord Jack. You can Google Landlord Jack. That's the rundown. It's YouTube, Instagram, Facebook. Yeah.
You on TikTok too?
TikTok.
Okay.
On TikTok as well. Yeah.
Any guys shout outs you want to give before we get you out of here, bro?
Yeah, shout out to everybody who's bought the book and supported me. Shout out to anybody that's put me in positions and rooms to help me elevate. Shout out to anybody who's gave me knowledge. And that's it, really. You know what I mean?
Listen, bitch, I'm shooting 3-pointers, ain't no laying up. None of my niggas bodybuilders, we just weighing up.